صلوات محمد وآل محمد اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ آج کے پروگرام کی باقاعدہ آغاز کرتے ہوئے میں گزارش کرتا ہوں ماسٹر فاضل رضا سے کہ وہ آئے اور قرآن پاک کی تلاوت سے پروگرام کا آغاز کرے، اور اس کے بعد انشاءاللہ فاضل رضا حدیث قصہ کی تلاوت بھی کریں گے۔ صلوات پر محمد وآل محمد۔
صلوات محمد صلی علی محمد۔ اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ لا اقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد، لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد، أيحسب أن لن يقدر عليه أحد، يقول أهلكت مالا لبدا، أيحسب أن لم يره أحد، ألم نجعل له عينين ولسانا وشفتين وهديناه النجدين، فلاقتحم العقبة وما أدراك ما العقبة، فك رقبة أو إطعام في يوم ذي مسغبة، يتيما ذا مقربة أو مسكينا ذا متربة، ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتواصوا بالصبر وتواصوا بالمرحمة، أولئك أصحاب الميمنة، والذين كفروا بآياتنا هم أصحاب المشأمة، عليهم نار مرصدة، صدق الله العلي العظيم۔ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم۔ عن جابر بن عبد الله العنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة، فقلت عليك السلام، قال إني أجد في بدني ضعفا، فقلت له أعيذك بالله يا أبتاه من الضعف، فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به، فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به، وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله، اللهم على محمد وآل محمد۔ فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه، فقلت عليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي، فقال يا أماه إني أشم عندك رائحات طيبات كأنها رائحات جدي رسول الله، فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء، فأقبل حسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه، يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوضي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معه تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أماه. فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي أماه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبات كأنها رائحات جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه، السلام عليك يا من اختار الله. أتأذن لي أن أكون معكما تحت الكساء؟ فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على فاقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحات طيبات كأنها رائحات أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم، ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيي وخليفتي وصاحب لواي، قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاه يا رسول الله، يتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بضعتي، قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. اللهم محمد وآل محمد. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ أبي رسول الله بطر في الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وخاصتي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن ظلمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم، إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، واذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على أنوال محمد. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا ربي ومن تحت الكتاب فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبعلها وبنوها اللهم صل على محمد. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي يتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا. فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلاله إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وهي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكتاب. اللهم على محمد وآله. فقال لي بإن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى يتفرقوا. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال النبي ثانية يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا ومحبين وفيهم محموم إلا وفرج الله هما ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وقضى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة.
صلوات. आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन आज भी ज़ैनब की आती है सदा भाई हुसैन तेरा چلتے نہ کے سے گرایا خود کو جلتی ریت پر چلتے نہ کے سے گرایا خود کو جلتی ریت پر گٹھنیوں کے بل میں تیری لاش تک آئی حسین بس میں گھبرائی تھی خنجر تجھ پہ چلتا دیکھ کر بس میں گھبرائی تھی خنجر تجھ پہ چلتا دیکھ کر پھر کسی مشکل میں گر کر میں نہ گھبرائی حسین کون تھا جو مرنے والوں میں نہیں تھا خوبرو کون تھا جو مرنے والوں میں نہیں تھا خوبرو بھولنے بیٹھی تو کس کس کی نہ یاد آئی حسین بہہ رہے تھے آنکھ سے آنسو تیری رخصت کے وقت بہہ رہے تھے آنکھ سے آنسو تیری رخصت کے وقت پھر کوئی آنسو نہ ٹپکا آنکھ پترائی حسین ہاتھ میں کوزے لیے سب آسماں تکتے رہے ہاتھ میں کوزے لیے سب آسماں تکتے رہے ابر نے ایک بوند پانی کی نہ برسائی حسین دور افتادہ سفر سے لوٹ کر میں نے نوید دور افتادہ سفر سے لوٹ کر میں نے نوید ٹھنڈی جب پیا بس تیری یاد آئی حسین، ٹھنڈا پانی جب پیا بس تیری یاد آئی حسین، آج بھی زینب کی آتی ہے صدا بائی حسین. صلوات.
ماسٹر فادی رضا اور ماسٹر عباس حیدر کی توفیقات میں اضافے کے لیے بلند تر صلوات. اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. ماشاءاللہ یہ ہمارے حسینیہ کے ستارے ہیں کہ جن کو کبھی پہلی بار پڑھتے ہوئے دیکھا تھا، اب یہ ماشاءاللہ سے اتنے کانفیڈنس سے پڑھتے ہیں، سلام بھی پڑھتے ہیں، مرثیہ بھی پڑھتے ہیں. ماشاءاللہ سے ہمارے بچے ہمارا رول لینے کے لیے کس حد تک تیار ہو رہے ہیں. ماشاءاللہ یہ بہت خوشی ہوتی ہے دیکھ کے. آنے والے پروگرام کے حوالے سے بھی تھوڑی سی معلومات آپ کو دوبارہ دے دیں کہ انشاءاللہ کل جمعہ کی نماز 137 پہ صلاۃ الظہرین سے شروع ہوگی. اس کے پہلے دعائے نتبہ کی ریسیٹیشن ہوگی انشاءاللہ تقریباً 1:15 پہ. اس کے بعد نیکسٹ ویک میں ہمارے پاس 3 پروگرامز ہوں گے، جو کہ منڈے والا جو دن ہے اس دن مجلس شہادت امام حسن عسکری علیہ السلام انعقاد ہوگا یہاں پہ، اور اس کا آغاز 7 بجے قرآن کی تلاوت کے ساتھ ہوگا، اور انشاءاللہ سلام مرثیہ کے بعد انشاءاللہ مولانا ہادی حسن صاحب اس میں خطابت کے فرائض انجام دیں گے انشاءاللہ. اور اس کے بعد ٹیوزڈے بھی آپ کو پتہ ہے کہ عید زہرہ کا پروگرام ہوگا انشاءاللہ، تو اس کو بھی ہم نے تقریباً ایسے تو 7 بجے سے ہوتا ہے لیکن ہم کچھ اور بھی سوچ رہے ہیں، تو انشاءاللہ اس کی پروگرام کی تفصیلات بھی انشاءاللہ کل تک ہم آپ کو دے دیں گے. اور اس کے بعد شب جمعہ بھی ہوگا انشاءاللہ. اور شب جمعہ میں اس وقت بھی جو اس مطلب آنے والے شب جمعہ میں جو فرق ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ انشاءاللہ ہمارے پاس ایک وزٹنگ اسکالر مولانا مجتہدی آ رہے ہیں، تو ان کی خطابت ہوگی نیکسٹ شب جمعہ کو انشاءاللہ. وہ پروگرام اگین 7 بجے ہی شروع ہوگا. اور اس کے علاوہ اس دن نکاح محمد رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم اور بی بی خدیجہ کی نکاح کا بھی دن ہوگا، وہ وینسڈے والا دن پڑتا ہے، تو انشاءاللہ اس کی بھی خوشیاں ہم منائیں گے مل کے. تو 3 انشاءاللہ مناسبتی ہوگی نیکسٹ ویک میں. تو سب سے گزارش ہے کہ وقت پہ تشریف لائیں تاکہ ہم پروگرام کو وقت پہ شروع کر سکیں اور اس کو وقت پہ تعمیر کریں. نماز کا وقت کافی قریب آ گیا. آج نماز کا وقت 8:50 کا ہے، نیکسٹ ویک میں اور بھی 8:55 سے بھی آگے آ رہا ہے. تو پلیز 7 بجے پروگرام ہم شروع کرتے ہیں، تو بالکل جسٹ انف ٹائم ہے. اگر آپ دیر سے آئیں گے، پروگرام دیر سے شروع ہوتا ہے تو نماز میں پھر تاخیر ہوتی ہے. تو سب سے گزارش ہے خاص کر کے عید زہرا کے دن آپ کو پتہ ہے کہ اس دن پڑھنے والے بھی زیادہ ہوں گے اور پروگرام لمبا چلے گا، تو سب سے گزارش ہے انشاءاللہ اس کو ہم 6:30 بجے تقریباً سٹارٹ کریں گے تاکہ انف ٹائم ملے اور انشاءاللہ ہم وقت پہ اس پروگرام کو بھی کنکلوڈ کریں. اب میں گزارش کرتا ہوں شبیر رضوی بھائی اور اب میں گزارش کرتا ہوں بدر ریاض خواجہ سے کہ وہ آئیں اور اپنا نذرانہ عقیدت پیش کرے. صلوات پر محمد وآل محمد.
صلی علی محمد اور محمد وآل محمد بلند تر صلوات. صلی علی محمد. کس طرح اپنی تباہی کی خبر لے جائے، کس طرح اپنی تباہی کی خبر لے جائے. پاس زینب کے بچا کیا ہے جو گھر لے جائے، کس طرح اپنی تباہی کی خبر لے جائے. آپ کا سایہ تو سروں سے ان کے لے گئی باپ کا سایہ تو سروں سے ان کے اب یتیموں کو ہوا چاہے جدھر لے جائے پاس زینب کے بچا کیا ہے جو گھر لے جائے ایک دو گھر کے چراغوں کو بجھا دے لیکن چھین کر کوئی نہ امید سحر لے جائے پاؤں زخمی ہیں تو راہوں میں ہے پتھر کانٹے جانے عابد کو کہاں تک یہ سفر لے جائے پس زینب کے بچا کیا ہے جو گھر لے جائیں کس طرح اپنی تباہی کی خبر لے جائے بولی ہوگی علی اکبر کو سجا کر زینب بولی ہوگی علی اکبر کو سجا کر زینب چاند کو میرے کسی کی نہ نظر لے جائے پاس زینب کے بچا کیا ہے جو گھر لے جائے سوچتی ہوگی یہ بانو میرا بچ جائے سہاگ سوچتی ہوگی یہ بانو میرا بچ جائے سہاگ حرملا مجھ سے میرا لخت جگر لے جائے پاس زینب کہ بچا کیا ہے جو گھر لے جائے رکھ کے آہوں کے سلگتے ہوئے اس مقتل میں لاش بچوں کی کہ شبیر کا سر لے جائے شاعری کی معراج یہی ہوگی نظیر، شاعری کی میری معراج یہی ہوگی نظیر، ذکر سرور میں مجھے موت اگر لے جائے، پاس زینب کے بچا کیا ہے جو گھر لے جائے، اس طرح اپنی تباہی کی خبر لے جائے، اور محمد وآل محمد بلندر صلوات محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم۔
اب میں گزارش کرتا ہوں حضرت شب رضوی اور ان کے ساتھیوں سے کہ وہ آئے اور مرچا کڑی پڑھیں اور صلوات پر محمد وآل محمد۔
محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم، بلندر صلوات صلی علی محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم۔
بارہ دیگر صلوات۔ جب حر کا گناہ شاہ امم نے بخشا، جب حر کا گناہ شاہ امم نے بخشا، قطرے کو شرف بحرے کرم نے بخشا، قطرے کو شرف بحرے کرم نے بخشا، گردوں سے ندائی کے ہے پیارے حسین، گردوں سے ندائی کے ہے پیارے حسین، بخشا جسے تو نے اسے ہم نے بخشا، جب حر کا گناہ بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
محمد وعجل
بارہ دیگر صلوات۔
صلی علی محمد وآل
اشک نکلے جو غم شاہ ہمیں پانی کی طرح اشک نکلے جو غم شاہ میں پانی کی طرح فکر بہنے لگی دریا کی روانی کی طرح فکر بہنے لگی دریا کی روانی کی طرح فرش شبیر سے کردار بنا کر اٹھو فرش شبیر سے کردار بنا کر اٹھو ذکر شبیر نہ دہراؤ کہانی کی طرح اشک نکلے جو بر محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم
صلی علی محمد
بس پڑھ لو بس سورہ فاتحہ بر محمد وآل محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم
صلی علی محمد
وطن میں جب کہ اسیروں کا کارواں وطن میں جب کہ اسیروں کا کارواں نبی کے روزے پہ سجاد ناتواں اتر کے ناقے سے با چشم خون چکایا حرم کے ساتھ یہ کرتا ہوا بیان آیا حرم کے ساتھ یہ کرتا ہوا بیان آیا مدینے دل برے ذرا کا سر اتار لیا ہمارے باپ کو فوج شقی نے مار لیا ہمارے باپ کو فوج شقی نے
مار لیا
بٹھا کے ناقے کو سجاد ناتواں اترے عصا کو تھام کے با چشم خون فشاں اترے قریب مرقد سلطان انس و جاں اترے اور اہل بیت یہ کرتے ہوئے فغاں اترے اور اہل بیت یہ کرتے ہوئے فغاں
اترے
ہوئی غریبوں پہ بیداد یا رسول اللہ حسین مر گئے فریاد یا رسول اللہ حسین مر گئے فریاد
یا رسول رسول اللہ
ہوا جو روز میں داخل وہ قافلہ ناگا گرے مزار مبارک پہ عابد زیجا اٹھا کے ہاتھ یہ فریاد کی بنا لو تباہی آ گئی ہم بے قصوں پہ یا جدہ تباہی آ گئی ہم بے قصوں پہ یا
جدہ
یتیم ہو کے یہ ناشاد کام آیا ہے پدر کو کھو کے وطن میں غلام آیا ہے پدر کو کھو کے وطن میں غلام
آیا ہے
بپا تھا یہاں تو ابھی ماتم شہ ابرا کہ یہ قیامت کبرا ہوئی ایک بار سنبھال فاطمہ سغرا کو عورتیں دو منہ اپنا پیٹتی داخل ہوئی بحالت منہ اپنا پیٹتی داخل ہوئی بحالت پکارتی تھی شاہ مشرقین کو مارا یہ کیا غضب ہوا کس نے حسین کو مارا یہ کیا غضب ہوا کس نے حسین کو مارا کہاں ہے صاحبو بھیا میرے علی اکبر کہاں ہے چھوٹا مسافر میرا علی اصغر کہاں ہے اونو محمد پوپی کے لاکھتے جگر بتاؤ قاسم و عباس نامور کدھر بتاؤ قاسم و عباس
نامور ہے کدھر
قریب مرگ ہوں غم سے میں خستہ تن لوگوں کہاں ہے بالی سکینہ میری بہن لوگوں کہاں ہے بالی سکینہ میری
بہن لوگوں
پکاری کوٹ کے چاہتی یہ بانوے ناشا جگر خراش ہے بی بی حسین کی رودا مرانڈ ہو گئی زہرا کا گھر ہوا برباد رہا نہ کنب میں باقی کوئی بجز سجا رہا نہ کنب میں باقی کوئی بجز
سجا
عجیب حادثہ ہم پر گزر گیا سغرا پسر بھی مر گئے وارث بھی مر گیا سغرا پسر بھی مر گئے وارث بھی مر گیا
سغرا
سنانے کی سے گئی جان میرے اکبر کی چدی خدنگ سے ننھی سی گردن اصغر کی چلی گلے پہ شہدی کے دھار خنجر کی صفائی ہو گئی ایک دوپہر میں سب گھر کی صفائی ہو گئی ایک دوپہر میں
سب گھر کی
میں شہر شام تلک ننگے سر گئی سغرا سکینہ قید میں گھٹ گھٹ کے مر گئی سغرا سکینہ قید میں گھٹ گھٹ کے مر گئی سغرا وطن میں جب کہ
محمد و آل محمد بلندر صلوات علی محمد و آل
شبیر بھائی اور ان کے ساتھیوں کی ذوقات میں اضافے کے لیے بلندر صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد مومن مومنات جیسے کہ ہم مسلسل اناؤنس کرتے آ رہے ہیں کہ آپ نے دیکھا کہ ابھی دو ماشاءاللہ سے دو ہمارے ینگ ریسائٹرز پارٹیسپیٹ کر رہے تھے. میں اکثر کہتا رہتا ہوں کہ ہم نے اس مائک پہ بہت ہی زیادہ بچوں کو دیکھا ہے کہ جو دے فیل ریئلی سو لو کانفیڈنٹ ان دیئر فرسٹ ٹائم ریسائٹیشن. But as the time go by, if you encourage them, if you keep encourage them, then mashallah they become a jam. We already have many examples in front of us. Mashallah, Fadi Raza, brother Abbas Haider, mashallah, many other brothers as well. They began somewhere, and now, as you can see, mashallah, they feel so confident. Even if your child makes mistake recitation, don't worry. Don't, try to encourage them as much as you can do, so that they feel confident and they ultimately will become a confident reciter inshallah. اس کے علاوہ آپ جیسے کہ دیکھ سکتے ہیں کہ حسینیہ کا مینٹیننس جاری ہے. آپ کو پتہ ہے کہ حسینیہ کے مینٹیننس میں ہمیں کافی پرابلمس کا سامنا کرنا پڑا تھا, کیونکہ جو مینٹیننس ہے وہ کنونشنل نہیں تھا. جیسے کہ آپ کے گھر کی سائڈنگ ہو, روفنگ ہو, تو ہمیں آسانی سے کانٹریکٹر مل جاتا تھا. لیکن اس طرح کے کنسٹرکشن میں ہمیں بہت ہی زیادہ مسئلوں کا سامنا ہوا, اور اسی لیے کنسٹرکشن اس طرح ہوئی. جو ریمیٹنگ ہے ساری اتنی زیادہ ڈیلے ہوئی, کچھ نہیں تو ہم نے 3-4 کانٹریکٹرز کو بلایا. کتنے کانٹریکٹرز کو ہم نے فون کیے جو کہ فون پہ ہی سن کے بھاگ جاتے تھے جب وہ پتہ چلتا تھا کہ ایک طرح کا کسٹم ریپیئرنگ ہے. لیکن ماشاءاللہ سے ابھی ہمیں یہ کانٹریکٹر ملے ہیں وحید بھائی, ماشاءاللہ سے وہ اپنی کافی محنت لگا رہے ہیں اور کافی ہمارے ساتھ کوآپریٹ کر رہے ہیں. کافی طرح کا ہم نے ڈفرینٹ طرح کا مینٹیننس کیا. آپ کو شاید پتہ نہ ہو, لیکن روف کے اوپر آج تک کھڑکی کو کچھ نہیں تو 3-4 بار ہم نے اس کو ریپیئرنگ کرایا تھا, لیکن ہر بار کہیں نہ کہیں سے پانی لیک ہی ہو جاتا تھا. لیکن اب کی بار ہم نے ساری کھڑکیوں کو چاروں طرف سے, اس کے علاوہ ڈوم کو بھی پورا سیل کرایا, ری سیل کروایا. جو سیل سے سارے جو جوائنٹس تھے ان کو دوبارہ کھرید کے اس کا جوائنٹ اوپن کر کے دوبارہ سیل کروایا. تو ماشاءاللہ سے وحید بھائی نے کافی محنت کی ہے, تو ہمیں امید ہے کہ اب کی بار انشاءاللہ یہ ریپیئرنگ لمبا چلے گا. جیسے کہ آپ دیکھ سکتے ہیں کہ جو سائڈنگ تھی اس کی لکڑی تقریباً سڑ چکی تھی. اگین اس کے لیے ہمیں بہت زیادہ کانٹریکٹرز کو کچھ نہیں تو جنوری سے ہم ڈھونڈ رہے تھے کانٹریکٹرز کو, لیکن کوئی ہاتھ ہی نہیں لگا رہا تھا. لیکن ماشاءاللہ سے وحید بھائی نے کوآپریٹ کر کے اب یہ لکڑی تقریباً ریپیئر ہو چکی ہے. 3 سائڈنگ تقریباً کمپلیٹ ہے, اور انشاءاللہ آج رات ہوتے ہوتے یہ 4تھی سائڈ بھی کمپلیٹ ہو جائے گی. اور اس کا ایکسپینس بھی آپ کو پتہ ہے کہ یہ ابھی تک ہمارے پاس ایگزیکٹ فگر نہیں ہے, لیکن ماشاءاللہ سے ہم اس کو ری پینٹ بھی پلان کر رہے ہیں. تو ری پینٹنگ میں بھی ماشاءاللہ ایک والنٹیئر نے, پینٹر ہیں ہمارے عراقی بردر ہے, انہوں نے والنٹیئر کیا ہے. تو ماشاءاللہ سے انشاءاللہ صرف پینٹ کی کاسٹ پہ ہمارا ری پینٹ بھی ہو جائے گا پورا ایکسٹیریئر انشاءاللہ. تو اس طرح سے ہمارے کاسٹ ہم سوچ رہے کہ شاید اپ ٹو 10,000 جائے, لیکن وی آر ہوپنگ دیٹ اٹ ول بی پرابیبلی لمیٹیڈ ٹو مے بی 3 or 4,000 ایٹ دا میکس. تو سارے والنٹیئرس اس میں کافی حصہ لے چکے ہیں. آپ کو پتہ ہے کہ عاصم زیدی بھائی تقریباً پورا دن یہاں پہ رہ چکے ہیں. جب ڈوم کی ریپیئرنگ ہوئی, جو سارے سیلس ری سیل ہوئے, تو انہوں نے 3 یا 4 دن ماشاءاللہ سے پورا دن ہمارے کانٹریکٹرز وحید بھائی کے ساتھ رہ کے ان کو بڑی محنت کی. اس کے علاوہ ریاض خواجہ بھائی بھی آتے رہے, مہندی بھائی, صفدر شاہ بھائی, میں بھی آتا رہا, اور بھی ماشاءاللہ سے ریاض جعفری بھائی, کافی والنٹیئرس آتے رہے. تو ان سارے والنٹیئرس کی توفیقات میں اضافے کے لیے, صحت و سلامتی کے لیے بلند تر صلوات صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. جن نے ان سارے مینٹیننس میں کافی لوگوں نے ڈونیشن بھی دی ہے, تو ان سارے ڈونرز کے مرحومین کے لیے, سارے والنٹیئرس کے مرحومین کے لیے, اور آپ سب کے مرحومین کے لیے سورہ فاتحہ. صلوات پر محمد وآل محمد صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. اسی کے ساتھ اب میں گزارش کرتا ہوں مولانا سید زیشم احمد سے کہ وہ آئے اور مجلس سے خطاب کرے. صلوات پر محمد وآل محمد.
الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين روحي وأرواحنا لتراب مقدمه الفداء فقد قال الله في كتابه المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وانفقوا في سبيل الله ولا تلقوا بأيديكم إلى التهلكة واحسنوا إن الله يحب المحسنين صدق الله العلي العظيم For the hastening of the reappearance of our Imam, please recite aloud our salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. And so we can be amongst the closest companions of our Imam, the ones who greet him upon his return without needing to hear his call. Please recite the loudest of salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First and foremost, it's a great blessing and an honor for me to be able to speak in front of you, to be in any gathering of mu'mineen. I've said it many times, but it's always true. To be in the presence of mu'mineen, especially in the ayam azah, when we're mourning Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, it's a great blessing. It's one of the biggest blessings that we can have, is to be in each other's company, is to have the blessing of a center, have the blessing of majalis, where we can gather around each other and benefit from each other, inshallah. So this is the first thing that I want to acknowledge, is that it is a great blessing for myself to be here and to be afforded this opportunity to benefit from your presence. Now, this is nearing the end of our traditional mourning season, based on whatever culture we're from. Various cultures have different times and how they view this. It's not something we have precisely in any sort of religious text about how long we should be mourning during Muharram and Safar. Some people go to Arba'een, and then they, after that they sort of, change their clothes and they become, celebrate. Some people go, all the way up to, 8th of Rabiul Awwal, and then after that there's no particular thing that we have in our religion that says this or that. But by any measure, usually 8th of Rabiul Awwal is the latest. I don't think anybody goes beyond that. And so, mostly in our Desi communities, the 8th of Rabiul Awwal is the time when that mourning season finishes. And as anything, as any sort of time, as any period finishes, it becomes a natural time to reflect about the start. What have we done in this time period? In this time period that we were mourning, that we were doing something specific, something special, we're not mourning the rest of the year. What is it that we've gained? What is it that we've accomplished during these majalis? If I look at myself, day one, the first night, the Chandrat of Muharram, right? What was I doing then? How was I in that situation? What was my character like? What were my actions like? And now that it's approaching the end of that mourning season, what am I now? Have I seen any difference? Have I become anything different? If I haven't, then there becomes a lot of warning bells that should be ringing in my head. If I haven't even thought about it, then it becomes even worse. Because everything that we have, everything in Islam is specifically geared for us to be in the state of change. There's not a single thing that we have that is supposed to let us feel like we've accomplished something and that's it. No. Accomplishment, that's it, that's for the next world. As long as we draw breath in this world, it's supposed to be a constant state of change. Every breath that we take should be different from the previous. In fact, there's a hadith that I like to repeat a lot because of how, stark it is, how strongly it's worded. Right? There's, and it's one of the strange things about this is that the same hadith is narrated by several Imams. When you see that one hadith, the same wording narrated by several Imams, it shows that there's something important being said. So there's a hadith, one of them who's narrated is Imam Hadi alayhi salam. He says that Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad wa anjum. Says Man istawa yawmahu fahuwa maghboon. The one whose 2 days are equal to each other, and this person's been deceived. They've been tricked. And the one, he continues in the same hadith, whose second day is worse than the first day, then he's mal'oon. He's cursed. We have similar hadith that talk not just about days, but talk about rak'at of prayer. That when you go to the second rak'ah, is something should be better than the first rak'ah of prayer. And if you're not like that, then you're missing out on prayer. You're not actually achieving what you're supposed to be achieving. That should be our perspective. Constantly in a state of change. It doesn't matter what age we're at. Right? This has nothing to do with age. It has nothing to do whether I'm young or old, middle-aged. It doesn't matter. Whatever stage of life, it doesn't matter at all. Because if we're not careful, we could reach the very end of our lives and lose focus momentarily, and everything slip from our hands. Right? We have historical examples of this. We have examples of it we can see in our lives. Right? Historical example that I like to give a lot. Again, I know maybe others have heard me say it, but because it's such a powerful example, it bears saying. Look at the example of Zubair. Right? Zubair is such a close companion. Right? They say they're third, fourth, fifth person to convert to Islam. Right? Converts when it's difficult, not after Fath Makkah when it's easy. He's related to the Prophet and Amir al-Mu'mineen from his mother's side. He's related to Hazrat Khadija from his father's side. He's called Saiful Islam by the Prophet. When the Prophet passes away, it's reported that he's in the house of Amir al-Mu'mineen, defending Amir al-Mu'mineen. Right? When the door is knocked down. Right? This is Zubair. But you fast forward 20 odd years, right? And you see that he's one of the first to uprise against Amir al-Mu'mineen, the first to go against his bay'ah that he gave to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Right? He gave allegiance to Amir al-Mu'mineen. He accepted him as his Khalifa. And then he goes against him. And he dies. Now I don't know, nobody knows, what happened exactly at the end of his life, right? That's between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe he did tawbah, maybe he was given, but we know this. Amir al-Mu'mineen cried upon hearing word of his death. Right? When hearing that Zubair had died, Amir al-Mu'mineen started weeping. I think that the person of that caliber, the one who had that much potential, and near the end of his life loses it all. So our trajectory, where we're going, it's not a question of age. Right? It has actually very little to do with it. Our direction and heading can be changed drastically in moments. Right? We have even the rawayat that talk about Fir'aun. Right? Fir'aun, with all of his crimes, all of the things that is bad that he did, extreme atrocities, as he's crossing the sea, right? And then the sea crashes down upon him, he calls out to Musa. He says, I believe in your Lord, save me. Doesn't get saved. Sea crashes down on him. It's revealed in a narration, reported in a narration that Allah SWT reveals to Hazrat Musa that if he were to have honestly and sincerely called out to me in that moment, he would have been saved. He would have been forgiven. Trajectory could change moments. In a moment, everything can change. And we know that clearly. Everyone who remembers the Aza and commemorates Imam knows that. Because we have a clear example there too. Hur. Hazrat Hur is a very clear example for us. That our trajectory can change in moments. Right? One person who is destined, who's going with his own feet towards hell, change direction drastically and attain Shahada with Abi Abdullah al-Hussaini. So it's not a matter of age. That's not what matters. But we have to be very, very vigilant. Because when we do things repeatedly, they become habits. And if we're not careful, Habits have a tendency to make us do things mindlessly, without attention about why we're doing them. And that's the most important thing, is why am I doing it? Why am I commemorating and doing this aza year after year? What am I here for? And again, we'll go back. The crucial thing, the central thing, that Hussaini mission is change. He set out to do islah fi ummat jaddi, to correct the ummah of his grandfather, the nation of his grandfather. We are that ummah. We're part of that ummah, or at least we claim to be. Has that islah, has that correction happened? If we're honest with ourselves, it hasn't. There's so much left that's remained. So much, we look at ourselves personally, our families, or our communities, or the nations, or global communities. So much left that hasn't been done yet. So much that needs to be corrected. And so that Hussaini mission that he rose up for over 1,000 years ago, close to 1,400 years ago, is still alive now. The mission has not been accomplished yet. We shouldn't think of Imam Hussain as having set out, he did what he needed to do, and then it's done. All we need to do now is commemorate it. No. Imam Hussain doesn't need us. Doesn't need our tears, doesn't need our commemoration. We need him. We need the commemoration. The aza is for me. And so if it's for me, I need to ask, what am I doing with it? And if I'm not asking that question constantly, then I'll miss the boat. Now, one of the things that happens, again, because of sometimes the traditions and the cultures that we have surrounding our aza, sometimes we can almost feel like the emotions that we're portraying feel forced. As if what I'm doing in, the majalis and these things, it almost becomes like a show. Like everyone is playing their role. I'm playing my role by coming up here, I'll give a speech, I'll say some masaib. Someone came up before and said salam in Marsiya. Afterwards there's going to be a noha, then there's going to be tabarruk, and it's the same thing. It's like everyone has their own role and they're playing their roles, and it's a play that's being played repeatedly. Right? And it almost sometimes, na'udhu billah, but sometimes, if we're honest with ourselves, it can feel like empty. Like no one's actually really doing it, intending it. They're not really sad. They're not really doing it from a place that comes from deep within. Sure, the tears come. Tears come. Tears, and alhamdulillah, anyone who's rooted in an Eastern culture, usually tears are easy to come, right? Where our poetry is emotional, the things that we have is emotional, and so the tears will come, right? But the tears are somewhat deceptive. Right? Because again, the test of a tear is whether it changed me, whether I became someone different by crying, whether that tear pushed me to now change and no longer do that sin that I'm so used to, and changed me to become better, removed those ugly vices that are within me. To go beyond that, one of the things we can do, very practical thing, is to have enlivened within our year the aza of Abi Abdullah Hussain. I'm not saying to lessen, I'm saying to increase. Instead of having it as just something that we do in Muharram and Safar, we can follow the sunnah of our great scholars who regularly, every Thursday or every whatever day of the week, would have a small sitting where someone would qiyam, either in their house or in a masjid, and recite the masa'ib of Abdullah Hussain. No speech needed, don't need to have a marsiya, no need to have a noha and matam. No, just someone comes with poetry, with a nice voice, recites the masa'ib, talks about the maqta, says what happens. Have it as a constant thing, because the grief is constant. The grief that we feel for Imam Hussain should not be something that we can forget about for 10 odd months of the year, and then remember again all of a sudden for 2 months. No. It should be a regular thing. Yes, it reaches peak. The grief reaches the most during the first 10 days, during Arba'een. That makes sense. But if it's something that we're actually that saddened by, then we should be feeling it regularly throughout the year as well. sometimes we have to encourage that. And so it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't require a center, doesn't require a person to come. We ourselves can do it. You know, we get the masa'ib, get something from a reputable source. We gather our families one night, say dua kumail, do some musibah. Why not? Have that as a very natural reflection of our grief. In our own words, in our own languages, however we feel the most comfortable. One time we feel comfortable just saying for 1 minute. Okay, just 1 minute. But we said it. We've expressed our grief. We shouldn't let majalis, as great as they are, be the only time that we're expressing our grief. And there's so many natural times for this to come out. What are the recommendations when we're drinking water? To remember Imam Hussain in his thirst. If we're truly doing that, then I think, if I was actually doing that, it would be difficult to drink water. Like, I'd cry every time I drink water. If I was doing ziyarah properly, every time after salah, it's a beautiful tradition we have. It might not be something specifically recommended in Islam. But if we have that as a tradition, to do ziyarah after every salah, it's a beautiful thing to do. It's a good thing. But as I'm saying the ziyarah of Abi Abdullah Hussain, am I actually imagining myself doing salam in front of that golden dome in Karbala, imagining what has happened, being right there in front of me? If I do that, I would cry. We have opportunity after opportunity in front of us, regularly there, that we can take advantage of. Right? There's something to make it more real, more tangible. Now, if we look at majalis, right, especially the speech part of majalis, the way that I personally look at it is that one of the functions of this speech portion of majalis is to make myself and to make the people hearing uncomfortable. I don't think what I'm saying has any real purpose if it just, everyone can just nod their head and acknowledge it and go home and go along with their life without anything really changing. I see it as a function of me, primarily for myself. Inshallah others benefit as well, but primarily for myself. I'm saying something to myself that I need to acknowledge, that I need to become aware of, that I need to change, that needs to push me, prod where I'm looking and say that this is your weak point. This is where, you need to shore up. And sure, there needs to be encouragement, there needs to be positive reinforcement, all that, the strategies that we use. But the conclusion of it shouldn't be coming out of it that, okay, that all made sense, I'm good to go. Whatever I was doing before this is the same thing that I'll be doing after it. That seems to be not much of a point. At the very least, it should encourage me to learn. Encourage me to say that, okay, I'm looking at myself and I see that, okay, well, X, Y, Z detail was mentioned. Well, that shows to me that there's a lot more that I could be learning. And so I'm uncomfortable about my ignorance. And so I will push to learn more. Right? Whatever level of uncomfortableness, whether it's on the level of our actions, on the level of our knowledge, on the level of our akhlaq, whatever level it's at, but it should push me to do something. So from that lens, inshallah, you can recite as-salatu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I want to talk about something that shall inshallah push myself again, make myself uncomfortable with where I'm at right now, and shall come out of this trying to do something different, inshallah better, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the things and questions that we have, and we should have, is that what is it that's holding us back? As an ummah, as a nation, as people of the Muslimin, what is it that's holding us back? If we have the truth on our side, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on our side, if the Imams are on our side, if everything is on our side, if the cosmos is built for a divine purpose and we're going on that divine purpose, everything is for us, then why haven't we made it? Why is it that we're still seemingly in a state of weakness, either personally or even globally? What is it that's holding us back? Now, there might be many, many answers to this, and I don't claim to say that I have all the answers at all. But one of the things that strikes and seems very vividly clear is our lack of unity. Unity becomes a difficult prospect to talk about, because when people think of it, natural question should be unity surrounding what? What are we unified on? What is the basis of our unity? But sometimes we just skip that question and we just talk about unity with who, right? We just say, okay, anyone who has this label of being a Muslim, then that's who are being unified. Or anyone who has the label of being a muwahhid, someone who has claims to tawheed, that's who we're unified with. Or whoever has the label of being a human, we're unified with. Various, whatever claims you have. Or if you want to go down a wrong way, whoever has the label of being a Canadian is who we're unified with. Right? We're all Canadian citizens. I'm not, but maybe the rest of you are. The question should first go back to this. On what basis are we unified? What is the reason to be unified? And here is where we go and we need to learn lessons again from Rasulullah, from the Imams. How did they interact with people? How did they go and do da'wah and invite people towards the truth? Did they invite people towards the truth in a manner of saying that, look, I'm right, you're wrong, and if you're not going to follow me, you're going to hell? Right? That is one way of going about it, right? They say like, look, this is the train that's going the right direction. If you're not with me, you're against me. I'm sorry, but that's it. The Prophet could have said that, right? If he did say that, then probably his call and da'wah towards Islam would be very short-lived. Because he didn't do that. Right? He called them with a lot of patience, a lot of sabr. To the extent, right? In the Quran itself it says that Rasul is almost like killing himself out of grief when people are not accepting his call towards Islam. That's how much it pains him to see what's happening. He's not doing it in the sense that I'm right, you're wrong, and therefore I'm comfortable where I am and you guys are just, you're losers. No. He wants them to come. He would love for them to come, despite what they've done to him, right? Sometimes we think of this, this is when after, or sorry, this is before anything bad has happened to Rasulullah. No. This is after. Right? Rasulullah has seen all of these difficult times. Think about it. Think about it for a moment. When Fath Makkah happens, who is becoming Muslim? When Makkah is conquered, the people who are converting to Islam are the same people who tortured the Prophet. They're the same people who killed both the family of the Prophet, family members of the Prophet, for example, Hazrat Hamza, or his supporters, his dear followers, his companions in various battles. They're the people who put him under sanctions, starved them for years in Shayba Abi Talib. But he forgave them. He welcomed them towards Islam. I think about the expanse of chest that it requires, the si'a sadr that it requires, how much of a big heart that it requires. Where does that come from? It comes from having your eyes on the goal. Why are we becoming unified for? It's for a larger purpose. It's not for me. My ego is inconsequential. Why? The I doesn't even factor into it. It's that I'm marching towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm doing things with what He wants. What He's asking me to do. What I like, my emotions, my pain, my suffering. I can acknowledge them, sure, I should. But they dissolve in the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that's supposed to reign supreme. But that ego sometimes stops us a lot, right? And we see it crop up, right? Like, put it into, more maybe tangible things. Right? Things that are around us. In even the Majlis Aza, right? I'm the reciter. I'm the speaker. I'm the Noha Khan. I'm this person. I'm that person. Right? It creeps up in places that it shouldn't. It has no relevance. It's, if any place it shouldn't come up, it shouldn't come up here. But it's so subtle. We have to always be wary of it. The best way to gauge and make sure that we don't fall into those traps is to use each other. Use each other as our checks and balances. If I look at my brothers around me as people who are traveling with me on this path, who are going on the same path as me, then I can't look at myself as superior to them, as that what I have is better. No. The I shouldn't factor. Again, that prophetic mission, it comes very clearly. Right? We see the prophetic goal. What does Rasulullah say? The very famous hadith is that if my ummah is like one body, if one part of it is in pain, then the whole of it is in pain. That doesn't come for free. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It comes when there's real relationships. When I'm invested in your life and you're invested in mine. I have to truly see it like that. But again, that only really works if I have a goal in mind. Take it in any way that you have in your own lives. It happens naturally. Right? Think about a study circle that you might have in school. Right? You have an exam coming up. You're cramming for the exam. You know that there's people around you that will help you study. And so you come together. You come together, you make a study group. You say, okay, you're going to review this chapter, that chapter. I'm going to review this to this. And we're going to help each other. We're going to quiz each other. And, we'll help each other pass this exam. You become unified for a goal. What happens when that exam is finished? Or let's say, in a very nice way, let's say you pass the exam, you pass a degree. What then? Does that study group stay together? Probably not. Unless there's some other thing to study together. If that was what we were studying for, that once the purpose is finished, then the purpose binding us would also finish. Let's take a look at what's binding us together. What brings us together in one place? The very first thing that brings people together is blood ties. That we're family. One family comes together because of the ties that they have in blood. Right? And that's a very natural thing. It's a thing that should happen. Right? We have so much emphasis on silatul rahim, on making sure that the connection between blood relatives is maintained. Even to the extent, right? Even to the extent. Right? There's Rasulullah is asked, like, okay, what if my parents are not Muslim? Right? I'm Muslim, they're not. Do I abandon them? Do I not communicate? He said, no. You still have to treat them nicely. Still communicate with them. Still try to, have good akhlaq with them. Why? It's because that purpose is not limited to me. It's not about me in isolation. It's about that ultimate goal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. By the same token, is there not a time where that ends? It does. Look at Hazrat Nuh in the Quran. When he's told that his son is not from his ahl. Laysa min ahlik. He's not of your family. His own son. Why? Because his son reached a point where he became an enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once that point is reached, well then even blood ties can't cross that bridge. Nothing survives that. That purpose is what unifies. Now, if my purpose and my goal is of that magnitude, right? I'm not just talking about me becoming a Muslim or me acting like a Muslim. I'm saying my purpose is that I'm looking at the whole of the cosmos, everything that exists. And I'm saying everything that exists, its purpose is to serve a divine will. And that will only be accomplished if everyone that has a will is obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I'm not resting easy until that mission is achieved. When that's the purpose I'm looking at, when I'm seeing that Rasul is rahmatun lil alameen, then I'm saying that lil alameen, the worlds, everything, the universe is my audience. Because I'm that ummah of Rasulullah and I'm following his path. Then my goal is massive. With a goal that large, our character, our decisions shift to reflect that. Smaller things should no longer become a barrier to. Think about it, ourselves, our own families, our own lives. What is it that drives us away from each other? Small things that happen in families. This person said that, and that offended me, and so I'm going to react like this. And I'm not saying, these things happen, and I'm not saying that there isn't a right and a wrong. Many times there is a right party and a wrong party. One person has done something wrong to another. We're accepting that completely. Does that mean that therefore the person who's done the wrong thing always has to be the one who comes to me, asks me for forgiveness, and only then will the relationship be repaired? Not according to the Prophet. And another hadith, it's narrated by the Prophet that if 3 days pass, and an argument exists between two mu'mineen, 3 days pass, then either one or both of them will be cursed. The person hearing this says, Ya Rasulullah, what if it wasn't my fault? He says that, sure, it might not have been your fault. But after you were harmed and hurt, did you go to your brother and try to mend it? Did you go and try to make him come close to you? If you didn't, and you had the ma'rifah, the awareness of it, then you can be held accountable too for not mending the relationship. Sure, the breaking of the relationship wasn't your fault, but why didn't you go and mend it? This is where we have to look more and beyond ourselves. It's not about me. Think about it on the context of Imam Hussaini, right? On the day of Ashura, right? He is still inviting the enemies towards the right thing to do when he's fighting them. Think about what that means for a moment. That Imam Hussain is telling them to abandon their path after they've killed his sons and his brothers and his companions. And he's still looking after them. Right? I'm not saying that we need to have that expanse of our hearts to be that big. Right? That's almost like an unimaginable amount to go. But boil it down. Someone hurt my feelings. Someone wronged me. Someone talked bad about me. Someone didn't give me my rights. Okay, that happened. Can I move past that? Were they truly an enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Are they working against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is their life completely oriented away? Are they an abid, are they a slave of shaitan right now? Or no, they made mistakes. If they made mistakes, but their eyes are on the larger picture, they have within them the potential to be guided, to go towards it. That's what's important. I'm not saying that your character doesn't change, right? That's a natural thing. If you're hurt repeatedly, especially if repeatedly. If I'm hurt repeatedly, I'm burnt repeatedly, I invest in a relationship, that person burns me. They keep on constantly are hitting me. Obviously, the way that I interact with them will become different. That's a natural thing. But do I say that no, that's it, we're enemies now, it's done? That's an extreme option. That's the nuclear option. I have to justify that in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I can't justify that based on my feelings. I have to identify that person as an enemy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is difficult. That's very difficult to go out and claim. No one is saying that therefore, my relationship with everyone is going to be equal and the same because we're all on the same path. No, obviously not. People will be closer to you. The ones who are doing the right thing will group closer to each other. That's a natural thing. It should happen like that. But that doesn't mean that therefore I'm excluding everyone else. It's now me versus them. That kind of mentality needs to be removed. It's something so poisonous within our communities. This me versus them mentality that happens within our communities on bases that have no relevance whatsoever. Sometimes at least you understand, like if someone hurt me or betrayed me or did something like that, or like they did something wrong to me, then okay, at least you understand something. But to divide based on like, okay, you do your matam in one way and I do my matam in this way, or you recite nohas this way and I recite it this way, for that to be the basis, again, we'll be held liable in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that. We have to be very careful, very, very careful. Our lives don't belong to ourselves. We belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our harakat and sakanat, our movements and our stillness, every decision we make will have to be justified in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not just about those moments of whether I prayed or did Sawm or did this wajib or did haram. Every moment of my life I'll be asked about. I'll be evaluated. And I have to justify myself. If one of the biggest blessings that we have is this community, is the brotherhood and sisterhood that we have, I will have to justify in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if I'm a cause for that breaking apart, or if I'm not working towards mending it. Let's give contemporary examples, relatively contemporary. Time is running out. There's a lot of points I had, but time is running out. One of the examples that we can give, right, is Imam Khomeini. Right? Imam Khomeini, obviously, when he's working towards the inqilab and having this revolution happen within Iran during the Shah's time, he's trying his level best to gather support amongst ulama in various parts of Iran and get them all on one page. One of the people that he tries and is very constant communication with, has a lot of respect for, is a marja by the name of Syed Ahmed Khansari, who lived in Tehran. Now Syed Ahmed Khansari is extremely respected in terms of his knowledge, in terms of his akhlaq. But anyone who studies that time period knows that he didn't speak out the most against the Shah. He was for sure against the Shah, there was no doubt on that part. But strategically, he chose to be quiet a lot more. Extremely lot more than Imam Khomeini. Right? But he was very much in support of of going against the Shah. Right? To the extent that, the Savak, the intelligence of the Shah, surrounded his house at many times. They put him under house arrest. When Imam Khomeini was exiled, Syed Ahmed Khansari sent his son to go and visit him and make sure that he was doing okay in exile. He had communicate between him and Imam Khomeini. Imam Khomeini inviting him and telling him that, look, you need to act more, you need to go out more, you need to speak out more. And he said and accepted it to some degree. But at the end of the day, he wasn't the same as Imam Khomeini. If I'm going to sort of evaluate, so how some people do, who's inqalabi? It's the people who speak out the most. It's the people who, are going to be on the streets. They're going to be the marching. They're going to be in the Al-Quds Day. They're going to be there. They're the ones who are with the inqilab. They're the ones who are on, they're on the right path, right? Everybody else who's, silent, hasn't spoken, was being quiet, was sort of there, but not really. No, they're not there. They're the others. But Imam Khomeini didn't treat him like that. He treated him with a lot of respect. Yes, he disagreed with him. Not saying that he didn't say that I'm right, you're right, everyone can choose their own path, it's okay. No. He clearly tells in a letter that, look, what you're doing is not enough. Imam Khomeini's opinion is this. But he respected him to the extent that when he passed, he said that Sayyid Ahmed Khansari is one of those people that there is zero doubt about his sincerity in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Imam Khomeini publicly says that, look, if there's anyone that you have, that there should be zero doubt, it's this Sayyid Ahmed Khansari. About his sincerity, his ikhlas in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, there's disagreement, for sure disagreement. But does that mean that now there's no relationship? No. The relationship was maintained. It was encouraged. People were encouraged towards him. Right? Several times, at least once I can think of that is a public letter, and when Imam Khomeini is asked about particular ahkam, he refers them to Sayyid Ahmed Khansari's books. He says, look, this ahkam is talked about here in this book, and he gives, the Sayyid Ahmed Khansari gives all the reasons for this ahkam needed. Right? He endorses him and pushes people towards him. It's not this idea that, okay, either you are with me completely, agreeing and doing everything that I'm going to do, or else you're against me, you're my enemy. If we have that kind of attitude, we will not survive. These are minor issues that we think about, relatively minor. Think about big picture things. Things that our imams went through to preserve unity. At the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, right? When Rasulullah passes away, what does Amir al-Mu'mineen have to go through to preserve unity? He has to be a helper, an active helper of the first and second Khalifa, while knowing what they did to Hazrat Fatima Zahra. Yes, that's extremely difficult. But he sees that as necessary to preserve a unity. I'm not saying that therefore we can swallow everything and there's no lines that can't be crossed. No, there's very clearly lines. And we follow the direction of our leaders who tell us what are our red lines, where we should be. We need guidance on that, of what is too far. But the point is that it shouldn't be based on my nafs. It shouldn't be based on what I've felt. That shouldn't be the point. If you look at it from another perspective, right? We've looked about what separates us. What binds us together? What brings us closer together? There is a verse in the Quran that I want to quote. You just say Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil. It's verse 103 of Surah Al Imran. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا. It says, cling to the rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all together and do not separate. In several hadith and riwayat we have talking about what is this hablullah, what is this rope of Allah. Usually the tafsir is done of two things, of kitabullah, of this Quran, and the Ahlul Bayt. That this is the hablullah, hablullah al-mateen, the strong rope of Allah. We need to cling to them and not separate. And then this next portion. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. Says that, look, remember the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gave upon you, He bestowed upon you. When you were enemies, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought close your hearts together. أَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. You became, through His blessing, brothers. وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَا حُفْرَةٍ مِّنَ النَّارِ. You were on the very lip of a pit of fire. You were about to fall into a pit of fire. فَأَنْقَذَكُمْ مِنَّهَا. Then you were saved from it. What is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave? What was that blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave that made these enemies into brothers? It's the realization of Tawheed. It's Islam. It's this path of being and submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the reality of my unity. It has to be based on my submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I understand that I am a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything I have is from Allah. Nothing I have is from myself. Everything I have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then I look at everything else. What about you? And you? And you? Are you any different from me in that regard? You're also the same. Everything you have is also absolutely indebted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the base, ontological, existential level, the creational level of my existence, I'm unified with everything else because I am the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All that remains is for my will to manifest what already exists on that level and show that by me submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will, I'm also unifying my will with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's. That becomes the basis of unity. And so who I become unified with, together with, is a factor of who also is submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That becomes the basis of what drives me, brings me closer. And this is the test, should be the test of our majalis. That we look within it and see who is it, what is it that's bringing us together. If it's truly the love and the sorrow for Abi Abdullah al-Hussain that's bringing us together in these majalis, then that should be reflected in my path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because what Imam Hussain stood for was that. What he died for was that. What he lived for was that. If I'm attaching myself to the caravan, then my footsteps need to be following that. I have to look closely within myself on every level, individual, family. In my family, am I allowing grudges to overwhelm the relations? When I look to it and see that, okay, someone offended me, someone did wrong to me, they did dhulm to me. But I look to it and I say, look, I can overcome it. I can look over it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do I have that within me? If I don't, at least think about it. I'm not saying that no matter what the dhulm, you just have to suck it up and deal with it. No. Sometimes things cross lines and relationships need to be cut. There's no doubt. But if it hasn't reached that, have I at least asked the question? I'm going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My partner is going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This other person, my family member, is also going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They might be misguided, I might be misguided. Something wrong might have happened. But if we're both going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that goal is too important for my hurt feelings to get in the way. Have I at least asked myself that question, looked at it in that way, seen whether it's become too much or not? Beyond that, on this global level that exists, look at what's happening around the world. This genocide of starvation is happening in Gaza right now. Okay? I know I should be finishing, but I'm going to continue for a little bit more. You know, I was just reading in the news, there was this shooting that happened in the United States, right? I don't know how many people saw it. It happened in Minnesota. The shooting that happened in a church where, you know, it's a tragedy. That, you know, some crazy person comes and shoots at a church while there's children praying at a church. Right? And kills 2 children, wounds, I think, 18 others. Right? Something that it is tragic. I mean, we should be extremely saddened by. But how is it? How is it? We should ask ourselves this question. How is it that politicians, people who have claims to humanity, human rights, are expressing grief and sadness at this? But when there's bombs, there's hundreds of thousands of people starving and dying, there's not even an expression, there's not even a thing of grief. It shows you who actually has humanity and who doesn't. The question is for ourselves though, most important. If I'm unified with the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I should not be able to rest easy at night while this is happening. And yes, what's happening in Gaza, with all the severity of what's happening there, is not the biggest cause that exists. The biggest cause is greater than that. It's the cause of going towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of establishing Tawheed throughout the world. That is the greatest cause. What's happening in Gaza is a manifestation of it. And so it guides. Understanding that guides how we do things, what we do. Understanding the larger picture, the bigger picture. But that's a massive thing that's happening. We should not be able to rest easy. Our food should not be pleasurable. We should be ashamed. We should feel grief. I'm not saying that there's something that we should be doing that we're not doing. Inshallah, we're all doing what we need to be doing. That doesn't change the hurt that we feel. We have this in our imagination, that if I'm doing my duty, that means that I should be completely at ease, nothing should be at fault. Read Khutbah Shikshiqiyya, the third khutbah in Nahj al-Balagha, where Imam is talking about what he endured for 20 years. He's doing his duty. Nobody can say Imam is not doing what he should be doing. But he says that while I'm doing it, there's a thorn in my eye and there's a bone stuck in my throat. Constantly in pain. Not a moment going that he's not in pain. That's how we should be feeling now. Even if we're doing our duty, we're doing the dua, we're working towards it, we're doing the boycotts, we're doing the sanctions, we're doing everything we can do. Whatever is in our hands, we can doing it. Inshallah. That shouldn't make us feel like we don't feel pain. The pain should be felt. And the easiest way of thinking about it is that, what if it was my family there, right now, in Gaza? Even if I was doing everything that I could do, would I be okay with it and say, okay, then that means it's done, I'm okay with what's happening? No. We wouldn't be able to rest easy. It would be sleepless nights. If we're not, let's ask ourselves hard questions. If I'm not attached to that extent, at that very least humanitarian extent that should exist, how could I be attached to the caravan of Imam Hussain? اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Dear brothers and sisters, if you want to look at one of the martyrs in Karbala that showed and manifested unity, perhaps greater than all others, look no further than Ali Akbar. Why? Because when Imam Hussain sends him onto the battlefield, he goes out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, looks to the sky and says, "Oh Allah, bear witness that I've sent ashbahan nas khalqan wa khulqan wa mantiqan ila Rasulullah." I'm giving to this cause the one who resembles the most in his attributes, in his appearance, in his speech to Rasulullah. When we wanted to be reminded of Rasulullah, we would look to Ali Akbar. That's what unity causes. Resemblance to who we're unifying with. When Ali Akbar goes onto the battlefield, it's reported that he comes back. And he comes back to his father saying, "Ya bata, aina al-atash qatalani." Oh my father, the thirst is killing me, and the weight of my armor is bearing me down. Hal ilal ma sabil? Is there any way for you to give me water? Imam Hussain responds by saying, be patient, my son. Certainly your grandfather is waiting to give you a cup of water, after which you'll never experience thirst again. Ali Akbar goes onto the battlefield again. He fights valiantly until he's struck on his head and he falls. He calls out to his father, Ya Mata, Inna Jaddi Yakroka Salam. Oh my father, my grandfather is saying salam to you. He's saying that we're waiting for you. Imam Hussain rushes to the body of his son, but he finds it cut into pieces. Zaidi rushes out from the tent saying, Ya Ukhayya, Ya ibn Ukhayya. Oh my brother, oh the son of my brother. Imam Hussain looks at this broken body of his son, looks to the sky and says, Ala dunya ba'daka al-afa. After you, this world has no meaning. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. فاطمة حسين.
ہے نہ لشکر کی وہ سج دج ہے، نہ سر پہ علم نہ چادر ہے، اللہ یہ کیسا منظر ہے، اللہ یہ کیسا منظر ہے، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، 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 سفر سے آتے ہیں سوغات درد لاتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، کیا سلام محمد کے آستانے کو کٹا کے آئی ہے زہرا کے سب گھرانے کو، نہ کر قبول تو ہم بے قصوں کے آنے کو، یہ نوحہ کرتے ہیں یار اشک خون بہاتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مدینہ ہم تیرے والی کو آئے ہیں کھو کر، مدینہ کوفے میں سر ننگے ہم پھرے در در، مدینہ داغے رسن ہے ہمارے شانوں پر، اٹھا کے ہاتھ مدینے کو یہ سناتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، ہر ایک قدم ہے بکا کب لبوں پہ بین نہیں، ہمائے زندہ پہ زہرا کا نور عین نہیں، مدینہ اکبر و قاسم نہیں، حسین نہیں، یہ کیسے کیسے جوان تھے جو یاد آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مدینے والوں کہو اس بہن کے کیا تقدیر جو دیکھ اپنے برادر کے خلق پر شمشیر، لہو میں غرق جو دیکھے حسین کی تصویر، لہو میں کیا یوں ہی بھائی کا سر دکھاتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، بتاؤ کہتے ہیں کیا سب سمجھائی کو، جو اربعین تلک دے کفن بھائی کو، بہن دکھائے گی منہ کس طرح خدائی کو، کفن دیا ہے نہ ان کی لحد بناتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، چلا بشیر یہ دیتا ہوا خبر ہر جا، مگر محلہ ہاشم میں دیکھتا ہے کیا، کہ ایک مریض سرے راہ ہے کھڑی تنہا، ہے منتظر کہ وہ کن بے کے لوگ آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، خبر یہ پھیلی تو ماتم ہر ایک گھر میں ہوا، نکل نکل پڑی سب عورتیں بڑے ناپا، گری زمین پہ سغرا کے اس پہ چرخ گرا، جو سغوار ہے سغرا کے پاس آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں، فضائے درد میں لے کر اداسیاں آئی، سفر سے لٹ کے ادھر بھوکی پیاسیاں آئی، اٹھو رسول تمہاری نواسیاں آئی، کہ خود کو اونٹوں سے اہل حرم گراتے ہیں مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے ہیں مسافران جو آئے کان میں آواز بانو اے مزتر کہاں ہو اے میرے والی امام و جن و بشر تڑپ کے رہ گئے صغرا بپا ہوا محشر کبیر بس کے اب لاکھ تھر تھراتے ہیں مسافران مصیبت وطن میں آتے
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله